Hi, this is Alex Stanley here from IT for Business. This is a video for all clients and anyone else who's interested. I've just come back from a 2-day IT security conference. I do these between 4 and 6 times a year to keep up to date with what's going on, what are the latest dangers, threats, tools, what's new. It means I can get access to developers of some of the products, which is normally quite difficult. 4 things to talk about: phishing campaigns by non-programmers, latest threats in browsers and what tools you can use to protect yourself, a little update on anti-phishing training using my favorite platform, and a little bit on IT policies and use of AI as a policy for your staff, because people haven't thought about this very much. So let's crack on. One thing I really liked, they've got the same problem that I've got problem with. I'm saying the same old message, security all the time, and people are getting bored. And I've got to come up with creative ways of getting the message through without you guys switching off. And this was quite a good one. They gave this example of trying to keep the message different and fresh and interesting. I really like that one. Right, phishing. So what is phishing again? It's with a PH. It's when people are trying to trick you into clicking on something or doing something which ultimately will lead to some sort of fraud happening, where they're going to take your money or take your property, whatever. And traditionally it's done on email. That's the biggest threat by far, but it's starting to happen by text message. So sometimes people are getting messages from Royal Mail allegedly saying there's a password, click this link. But what you've got on the screen there is, well, it was from last week. My wife received this message on her phone. Penalty charge notice. Yeah, well, she and I know what that is, because we've both had a speeding issue at some point or other, so we know what that means. Today's the last day you can get a 50% discount on your fine. If you don't pay, we're going to get really heavy straight away. Please read the details. Your counsel. So for me, the red flags are obvious. It was sent on the last day of the month. And there's this sense of urgency, real urgency, deal with this right now. But there's no admission of which London council it is. So, that's not how they work. They just don't do that. And those are the 2 things, 3 things. Were you expecting it? Is there a sense of urgency being pushed into the message? And can you trust the person who sent it? So I basically messaged her back and said, it's rubbish, ignore it. But some people are not as switched on maybe, or soaked in it all as I am. And she wanted to check with me. So yeah, that's a message for everybody. Think really hard when you get these sort of things coming through. Now, really scary, yesterday morning, we had a live demo from a presenter who's not a programmer. He used OpenChatGPT and some software that he downloaded off the internet, not the dark web, the ordinary web that we can all get. And he downloaded a tool that allowed him to pick from 40 different templates. So you build your own fake LinkedIn page, start page, your own Amazon start page, your own Yahoo, there were loads, absolutely loads. And he just picked one. He said to OpenChatGPT, write me a script too. And it gave him the script. So he's not a programmer, he just ran the scripts that it was given, and he was able to set up all the tools he needed to run a phishing campaign. It was scary. Then he ran the he showed how the campaign worked. Campaign is basically you receive an email allegedly from, say, Facebook, and you're persuaded to click the link to log into Facebook. So you think you're going to Facebook's main live page. There it is in front of you. In fact, it's the fake page. So you type in your username, type in your password, and that gets passed to the bad guy's web browser. Now this one is connecting to the correct Facebook page. So he takes your username and your password that you've just typed in and gives them to Facebook. Facebook answers saying, oh, that's okay. Can we have the 2-factor code, please? So this fake one thinks, well, I better go and get it. So it goes back to your web page that you think is Facebook but isn't, and says, what's the 6-digit code? So you type it in, passes it back to the the hackers, the malicious person's one, passes that to Facebook, and they go, oh yeah, okay, thanks, you're in. And what Facebook and all these websites do is they give back what's called an authentication token. It's just a digital file, and the bad guy just clones that. So they give one copy back to you on your web browser and direct you through to the real Facebook, and you're in now. You're in real Facebook, and Facebook thinks it's you because you passed all the tests. But the bad guy has also got a copy of the authentication token, and they are now logged in as you at the same time, and you don't know. So if you get phished, whether you have two-factor authentication on or not isn't going to protect you. So is this better news? Not really. Most of what people are doing is in the web browser now. Compared to 10 years ago or 20 years ago, some people are spending all day in web browser apps, so they never really drop onto their normal desktop. So it doesn't matter if it's Windows or Apple or Linux or whatever. You're just living in your web browser, and for a lot of people that is Chrome, but it's not always. Firefox seems to pop up, sometimes Edge, sometimes Safari. Doesn't really matter what web browser you're in now. But it does matter what plugins you've got connected to your web browser. Okay, if you look at the manage plugins, do you know what they're all doing? Because you really need to. Are you on the latest version of the web browser? Have you got patching for your web browser? Do you know all of this stuff? If you don't know, come and ask me, because this is really important. The web browser is becoming the place where the action is happening. What kind of things happen when people hack websites? Well, one of the things they do is they break into a website and then they change the page so it looks the same, but it's got some extra bits, so extra scripts run that do nasty things. Or another one is changing the button so that you think you're logging in, you're typing in your credentials, when in fact you're putting them to an intermediary, which is then firing them in. Again, it's credential scraping. Yeah, there's lots of things. I want to keep the pace of this going, so I'm not going to go through every single one. What's the best thing to do? Make sure you're on the latest version. Make sure you've got automatic updates happening. Make sure you understand your browser extensions. If you don't understand what the browser extension is doing, disable it or delete it. Right, anti-phishing training, totally different. My favorite product is KnowBe4. The videos used to be, the old ones were a bit cheesy, sort of comedy. Now it's really serious. I also want to talk about simulated phishing. Well, KnowBe4 platform also does simulated phishing attacks. 4 years ago, I ran a simulation across 50% of my clients, and of their staff, 50% were phished. So 25% of all my client staff fell for the phishing simulation. I'm not convinced it's a lot better now. I think it's a little bit better. Some people still haven't gone for the phishing training. It's really, really serious because you can't really tell what the bad guys are up to. It's not like it's a few steps and they're in and then it's all over. The bad guys will sit and monitor someone's account if they manage to breach it, if it's email, for days. 127 days or something is the average, where nothing happens. They're just watching and learning, reading the emails, reading what you type, reading what you receive, learning to speak like you. So when they drop that email in that looks like it's from you, it really reads just like it's from you. Anyway, anti-phishing training, it covers the simulations are very, very powerful. You may know about this series called The Inside Man, which is like a soap opera. I've had a couple of people say so-and-so has left the company and wants to know how they can watch the end of the series because it's really gripping and exciting. I'm personally up to season 2 of The Inside Man. I found out yesterday they're recording season 6, so we have plenty to go. So it's great for those of you enjoying it. Totally different. There was an announcement yesterday. If you've got the KnowBe4 platform, and it's very inexpensive per member of staff per month, if you've got the KnowBe4, you now will get the sensory service, a mindfulness system. So it's videos and audio, and it's about recognizing that stressed staff, high pressure situations, are more likely to make mistakes. And it's not just being busy. It's based on medical evidence that the rear part of the cortex is the fight or flight area, and people have been seeing that if they're stressed, that's doing most of the activity, whereas the front sort of central thinking part that's deep inside there, that's reduced, and you want it the other way around. I'm also drawing on some information from the rail industry, where they have worked out that certain types of job are very repetitive for most of the time, and then suddenly if they need high attention when their brain has been mostly in subconscious mode, they're not always good at making great decisions, and being fished is one of those times where you want to make sure people are making the right decision. Anyway, it's free, so if you think your staff would benefit from a sort of mindfulness set of videos, please come and talk to me. Finally, we're moving on to managing your IT infrastructure and your environment. You really need, as a business, to have your list of computers and who's been given whichever laptop. You have the responsibility to have that list. You also have a responsibility to know which software applications you've given to your staff, which ones are they using. If you're the boss, I guarantee you will not know every single app that one of your staff has signed up for using a company email address. I'm sure you won't. But you need to know, for every single one of them, you need to know who's got access, how do we delete the account or lock the account of a member of staff who's left, who's our expert user, and how do we create new accounts. And there's a financial angle. Are we paying for these licenses or not? Depends. I've written a couple of power apps, so they're little mobile phone things, because when you're handing out assets like a laptop, it's really important to take a photograph of it and have that recorded. So I've written something which is useful. Related to this is policies. So you have a really useful policy to have, required for any kind of assessment. Changing the default password policy. So when a new printer arrives, when a new router arrives, a wireless access point, historically the default account has often been admin, and the password is either password or admin or 123, or you just look it up on the internet and you can find out what the documentation says the default is. That has to change. So you have to have a policy in place that says when new equipment arrives, we change the password. And then the second policy that really matters is AI usage. Okay, I'm nearly there. So I've written an AI usage policy. Did I use Microsoft Copilot to do it? I did. I thought that was hypocrisy, but in the end I did, and then I had to rewrite half of it. So examples of where your staff didn't even think that they needed to be wary of, perhaps. Deepfake videos. So if you look on YouTube and for Morgan Freeman, you'll find a video of him talking about the fact that the video you're watching is not actually him. It's been completely faked. There's a very sad instance there where people are faking funeral live streams and then sending messages out to everybody who knows that person, trying to con them into giving out your money. That's tragic. Voice phishing. So that's where an AI-powered tool, it's not a voice that you're supposed to recognize, it's just trustworthy voice that's reaching out to you on the phone, telling you to do things. Fake news is massive. If your staff are doing marketing campaigns and you want to involve latest news, do they trust their sources? How much they trust them? If you're going to quote something in your PR news or your articles or in front of other people or in standing up in a show, how do you know that the sources you're using are definitely correct? Then we get on to phishing campaigns. AI, I've just talked about phishing a lot today, but AI is being used to generate the tools, so they are now more polished and more effective and more tricky, and just the volume of computational power that's being used for the AI stuff is huge. Okay, cyber attacks, yeah, we talked about that. Identity theft, right, a big one is cloning voices. So someone is speaking to you, but their voice is being changed on the fly to sound like someone else. Do people realize that that's possible? It's possible now. And finally, autonomous weapons. It's in the policy, so I put it there. 3D printing a gun, yes, that's possible. Using AI to improve the design of that print, well, it's kind of possible. So AI usage in the workplace is really important, and people have to be as aware of that as they are of phishing. So instead of trusting everything and being naive, I'm afraid they have to be on point and be really sensitive to it. So we talked about a lot about phishing and the dangers and how it can be bypassed. Logging can be bypassed. Talked about browser security. The plugin that I'm advocating for browsers is called Conceal. Please speak to me if you want to have that browser plugin that protects you. AI usage policy we've talked about, and managing your assets properly and your software properly. We talked about that as well. So thank you very much for listening, and please come back to me if you've got any queries.